Okay, so day 33 review. Um, Woke up in West Yellowstone and it was 36 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 36 degrees. Very foggy. And no complimentary breakfast for our outrageously priced room. They wanted 18 bucks a piece for the breakfast buffet. Fortunately, the night before when we were reserving the room, I kind of scoffed at that idea, and the lady behind the counter gave us some vouchers for free breakfast for each person. I don't know why they don't just do that, but for the money they're charging, it should have been because the breakfast buffet was basically just a continental breakfast. I mean, it's even down to the cereal and everything like you would see in any other restaurant. It wasn't anything special. Anyway, had breakfast, got back to the room. It was still pretty cold. Got everything packed up and decided to wait a little while longer to see if it would warm up, and it did. Got up to the upper 40s. Um, but we all layered up. I mean, I was toasty. Sarah's cold. Doesn't matter how many layers she wears, she's cold. Um, got gas and headed out of town. Got to the west entrance, got through pretty quick, and traffic. I mean, you would think this far past Labor Day weekend that traffic might be letting up and the crowds would be decreasing, but there was quite a few places where it was bumper to bumper. Um, People going really, really slow. It's a beautiful ride. A lot of the roads have been repaved, and they're still working on that. Most of what they're doing now is painting crosswalks and things like that. They were paving some of the pullouts, and they were paving, I don't know, some of the rest stop areas and stuff like that. But anyway, we got in, turned south because we wanted to go to Old Faithful. And right after you turn south on the loop that goes around, there's a little side road called Firehole Canyon. That was really cool. It's a one-way loop going north to south, 1 lane wide, 25 miles an hour. Real narrow canyon, cool waterfalls, lots of traffic, but just a really cool spot. Dumped back out on the main road and continued on around the loop, and came to a spot where the traffic was just really, really slow. And it's that not quite fast enough to have the clutch all the way out in first gear, but not stopping. So you're just constantly working the clutch, working the throttle, and my hands are hurting today. Um, Eventually, we get all the way around, and there's a herd of buffalo just laying in the grass, not too far from the highway. And there's a ranger standing there waving like crazy for people to keep going, and everybody stops anyway and just takes their pictures, ignores the ranger, shoots their video, whatever. But yeah, so that took a while to get through that. And then every now and then you would just get like when you're on the freeway and one person brakes and the next person brakes, and it just cascades, and there's no reason for you to be slowing down, but that one person hit their brake, so now everybody's got to hit their brakes, and you get that kind of effect going. Um, had several of those, and that's just frustrating. And then we had one where we just came to a stop, killed the engines, put the kickstand down, sat for, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, watching traffic way ahead. And eventually they let us go, and it was just they were painting a crosswalk. I mean, it's just, they got to paint them sometime. So anyway, got through that. Eventually got to Old Faithful, got back up in there, and the lodge and the gift shop and all that stuff. The architecture is really cool. I could have walked around taking pictures of that, and probably should have if I'd thought about it. But there's the original lodge there, and now there's some big, huge, fancy conference center type place that's really cool. You can sit inside and watch the guys, or you can sit on a covered porch and watch the guys, or you can go out with all the other people in a big circle around, sit on the benches and watch the guys. And it went off, I don't know, 1:40 or so. We got there about 30 minutes before it went off. Kind of anticlimactic. I mean, it was cool, but it wasn't like, whoa, like all the things I'd heard since I was a little kid, like, oh, this thing shoots hundreds of feet in the air and all that. It shot, I don't know, 30, 40 feet maybe. and then just a lot of steam going up. And then, of course, you have the water vapor floating over, coming over us, and that was cold. Because by the time it got that high in the air and drifted and then came back down on us, it was pretty cold. And it smelled, lots of stuff smelled in this park because it's all got sulfur in it. But we got back on the road, and of course, after the geyser's over, it's like at the end of a baseball game or a football game where everyone's trying to get out of the parking lot at one time. Got back on the main highway and, slow. Eventually got to the highway that turns south and runs out of the park and goes, I think, down towards Jackson. It's basically right where the highway tees into the side of the lake in the middle of the park. Turned north and almost immediately turned off into a lake view, lake overlook little spot that had some really cool hot springs and had the boardwalk so you could walk down and you could get pretty close to some of the springs. And they're all different colors. Some of them are like mud, some of them are rusty, some of them are green, some of them are blue, some of them are clear. I mean, it was just really interesting. But did that walk, I don't know, maybe 30-40 minutes. Got back on the bike, sweating like crazy. And then we just cruised and up the west side of the lake. And when we got to the very north part of the lake, I was sitting here looking at the route thinking, it's showing that we still got 200 miles to go out of a 262 mile route because it took us so long to get through that first 60 miles. And it was already 3:30. If we kept going, we'd be rolling in really late, even if the traffic was perfect and even if we didn't stop for any more pictures, which, I can't help that. So, yeah. We decided to just turn and head to Cody, which is where we were trying to get to anyway. So we ran off, I guess it's US 14 that runs out the east side of the park. And I gotta say, that was a really cool ride. I've never done that before, especially after you get past the park sign and you actually go out the exit. It just follows, I don't know what the river is. I'm sure you can look it up. But, I mean, there's a river, and it's a really cool canyon. And we just went down that canyon. Of course, I had to take a lot of pictures, and the kids got out ahead of me. And, so when you get to the end of the canyon, I'd passed quite a few people because, they're not going that fast. Lots of good passing zones. So I'm not doing anything stupid. I'm not blowing people's doors off, getting around or anything. I'm just past them, Every now and then I'd stop, take a picture or two, and they'd all pass me, and then I'd pass them again. Kids in the school bus were all like, yeah, waving out the back window at me. It was kind of funny. But eventually that road, there's one last curve, and then it's just real straight, and it runs into Cody. And for me, it was like a right-hand curve. So I moved across the oncoming lane when no one was coming and parked on the far side where there was a big wide shoulder and kind of a turnout for another road. And I thought I was level. And I was going to take a picture looking to my left, like a panorama type picture of the mountains. And, I kind of tweaked my handlebars to feel if the bike was level, and it was resting on the side stand pretty good. And then I stood on the pegs, something I do all the time to get clear of the bike to take good pictures. And point my camera to the left where I'm going to start my pan and start going to the right. And I'm doing a video. Hit the video button. All of a sudden, I'm going backwards. The bike just went right over. And that bad thing about that is I wasn't real far off the road. So the white line was 2.5, 3 feet, maybe 4 feet from the bike. Well, the bike's not going to go over the white line, but I'm going that direction, and there's a car coming, of course. Fortunately, this lady sees me going over, and she sees me trying to jump clear of the bike, and I managed not to drop the camera, so I got a video. There won't be any volume on that video. And I managed, I'm looking at the white line the whole time I'm falling, and I'm making sure I try to stay on my side of that white line. And she clears me and immediately pulls over and comes walking back, to make sure I'm okay. And my bike's laying there, and I'm like, oh, crap. I started to try to pick it up, but it's too heavy. So I popped the rock straps on the backpack that sits on top of the back seat that has my tent and sleeping bag and all that stuff in it, and got that off. And that's a good 40 pounds or more. Of grabbed the passenger grab rail, grabbed the handlebar, and did the old man thing and made sure I used my legs and not my back. Picked it up without too much trouble. I didn't feel like I was straining. I just lifted it right up, made sure the kickstand was down so I didn't flip it right back over on the other side. And, you know, got it done while she was standing there. She said, oh, okay, well, everything's cool. And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. Didn't get hurt. So she drives off, pick up I never dropped my phone, so I just turned around, took my video. You know, if I'm going to go through all that, I'm going to get my video. Got back on the bike, took off to catch up to the kids, and they had pulled over not too far up the road to wait for me. And Daniel noticed that I had oil all over the front of my right passenger bag, and there was oil on my pants on my right leg, and that's the side it fell on. And there had been a little bit of oil from that drop on day 9 when we got down that crazy road, and there's that picture that most everyone's seen of my bike laying sideways on this nasty road. So I didn't know if I'd cracked the head or what, but it hadn't been leaking. I've been watching it since then, and the bike's been on its side. This is the 3rd time, every one of them on the right side for some reason. All of them 0-speed drops. You know, the bike was stopped and just fell over, which, you know, your engine guards and all that are supposed to take care of. You know, I've got the guards on there. I've got the Machine Art Moto covers that have like a thick rubber pad plus the actual guard itself. So, you know, I don't know. Anyway, we eventually roll into Cody, get a hotel, staying at the, what is this place called? Beartooth Inn or something like that on the east side of town near the airport. Decent, reasonably priced. Park right outside your door. And we're getting everything unloaded. I'm looking at the bike, and there's a lot of oil still leaking out. Like, what in the world's going on, you know? So there's this truck parked next to me, big equipment truck, like a construction truck or something. And the dude comes walking around to do something to the truck, and I'm talking to him. I'm like, hey, you wouldn't happen to have some tools? And he's like, I got tools. He whips his truck open, and he's not kidding. He's got every kind of tool you could want. He's got this huge full set of DeWalt tools, Torx wrenches, Allen wrenches, any kind of socket, any kind of open wrench, whatever you want. And he's like, here you go. Yeah, use whatever you want, man. If you need anything else, let me know. I'm going to go up to my room. Whenever you're done, just holler at me. I got my window open up there. I'm actually living up there. You know, it does contract work, so he moves with the work. And this is his company truck. And yeah, so Daniel, pretty quickly, we get the engine guard off, gets the head cover, Machine Art Moto cover off. And we can tell the head doesn't look like it's cracked. You know, the head cover gasket all looks good. It looks like what might have happened is there's like 3 or 4 little bolts that hold that cover on, and they have little gaskets around the head of them to keep the oil from seeping through. And I think one of those bolts has the gaskets torn maybe a little bit, or just wasn't quite seated. I don't know. But he wiped everything down. We didn't see any obvious damage. Put everything back together real carefully, made sure the guard and everything was on there, and got all the bolts tight, you know, good and tight, because we don't have a torque wrench with us. And put everything back together and stuck the guy's tools back in the truck and hollered up at him through the window, and I hear chirp chirp, you know, he locked it up and we're good to go, you know. And it's just like the dudes that came down the mountainside after Sarah dropped her bike yesterday. Like, you know, we were sitting there for what, I don't know, 2-3 minutes. These guys come around the corner and they got everything we need right then and there to get it fixed and get it out of the ditch and get us turned around and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, I know a lot of people don't believe in the power of prayer, but I know there's a lot of people back home that are praying for us. And nah, it doesn't prove God exists if that's what you want it to say, you know. You're right, it doesn't. But at the same time, it's an awful lot of coincidences on this trip that keep happening that could so easily have gone a different way. You know, we were looking at staying in totally different hotels. And tonight we wound up in the hotel where we just happen to have the dude that happens to have everything we need right there. And he's out there at the moment we need him. And he's, you know, nice guy. And he's like, sure, do whatever you need. Doesn't matter to me, man. And pretty cool guy. So yeah, that worked out well. So got my bike fixed. I'll keep an eye on it, make sure we're not running low on oil or anything like that. You know, not leaving any more drips anywhere. And, Went and got dinner, local steakhouse, you know, the Wyoming Roadhouse, nothing like Texas Roadhouse. They had 9 items on the menu. Pulled pork was like 3 of them. Yeah, and it was mediocre. Wasn't great, wasn't bad. Don't know that I would recommend it. Got done with that and noticed the Dairy Queen right next door. Yeah, so anyway, had to go get dessert and then called the lady that's hauling us around. It's not an Uber, it's like a local taxi service. About the same price. Nice lady. And I thought she said she was over by the hotel and she'd be there in 10 or 15 minutes. So I walked back in, sit down at the Dairy Queen, and it's not 60 seconds later, I see this face looking through the window at me from the parking lot in the little green taxi light that she has in her window. And I'm like, how'd she get here that fast, you know? Apparently she was cruising the parking lot of the steakhouse because she thought we'd be close to being done with dinner. So she just cut across the parking lot. So anyway, kind of cool. So yeah, she got us back to the hotel. Got back here. The Wi-Fi, probably some of the best Wi-Fi I've had the whole trip. You know, not the greatest hotel in terms of how it looks, but it's a nice, you know, decent hotel. Better Wi-Fi than the super expensive places we've been staying a couple nights. So yeah, I got a lot of pictures uploaded, a lot of videos uploaded. Still struggling with YouTube. Will only let me upload 10 videos every 24 hours. And that's kind of a pain in the butt. I try to do their verification process. It lets me get around that process, which is basically take a picture of your driver's license and let them verify your ID. They couldn't verify my ID with my driver's license. And I've had this YouTube channel for, I don't know, 20 years, 15 years, whatever it's been. I mean, a long time. And now all of a sudden this is an issue. So, you know, they don't give you any way to contact anybody. There's no phone number. There's no email. I don't know what to do about it. It's just a pain in the butt. So it's making me get behind on doing the ride reports and stuff. But, you know, like everything else on this trip, you know, it is what it is. You just deal with it. Figure it out. Probably what will happen is I'll get home and we'll be home for a week and I'll still be posting ride report stuff. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, tomorrow we're going to head back into Yellowstone. We're going to head northwest out of town and head up towards Chief Joseph Pass. That I think will get us around 10,000 feet. Drop down into the park and then hook a right and go up over Beartooth Pass, which is, I think, the more scenic of the two. You know, I've ridden both of them before. And I know that one gets over 10,000 feet for sure. And then drop down on the north side of the park into a little town called Red Lodge. Grab gas, and there's a little road that cuts back over to a highway that drops back down into Cody. So it should be about 180 miles. And hopefully we can get that banged out. And then I don't know what we're going to do after that. You know, the goal was to head over to a little town called Tin Sleep in Wyoming, where a friend lives and runs a little microbrewery, restaurant, campground type deal. And it's a cool place. I've been there before. Some of the routes that I was thinking we might ride to get there that involve a lot of dirt, I'm thinking probably a little more technical than what we want, especially on big, heavy loaded bikes. So I'll just make something up tomorrow. So we'll see how it goes. So anyway, that's a wrap for today. Still having fun, still chugging along. Bye.